Welcome. I am Josh Kay, and this is the New Canaan Chamber Music Podcast. With me is Andrew Armstrong. Andy is a world-renowned pianist and the artistic director of New Canaan Chamber Music. Welcome, Andy.
Hello, Josh. It's great to be with you. Our first ever podcast together.
Our inaugural podcast. So you have a concert coming up on February 6th and 7th here in New Canaan. I want to talk about what you have planned for that concert. But first, can we take a step back and can you talk about generally what a concert goer might expect when they come to one of your New Canaan Chamber Music concerts?
Well, I really cottoned to this thing that a friend of mine said. John Holloway is the executive director of the Seattle Chamber Music Society. And he said, everybody in the world loves Brahms' piano quintet. They just don't know it yet. And what I feel that we do at our concerts in New Canaan is we provide the type of ambiance, the type of relaxed, welcoming environment with light commentary about the pieces and world-class performers to give us performances that we can trust as, as great as you could hope to hear of famous repertoire. We really give people the chance to fall in love with something new, to try something new in a fearless way. And I think my favorite thing to experience with our concerts is finding that one of our loyal followers has brought in a new friend, dragged their friend kicking and screaming, and the friend doesn't want to leave the concert at the end and then says, I'm a new believer, I'll be back every time. Those are the great experiences.
Absolutely. So what do you have in store for us in February? Who are you bringing?
Well, what's that saying about wedding? Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue? We have something old and something new. Then the repeat. Well, nothing's repeated, but we had to bring back one of our biggest hits, one of our great stars of our young lives. The series has gone on for 4 years now, and Orion Weiss, the world-famous pianist, was such a huge hit when he was with us before. So he's coming back, and we're going to play four hands piano, two pianists stuck at the same keyboard together, and something new. We've got the Slovenian guitarist Mak Grgic to join us, and this is our first guitarist on this series, and it's Mak's first time, and so that'll be something new for people to experience, and a lot more solo playing on this concert than we might normally have, because if you think, two pianists and guitar, there's not a ton of ensemble, and the guitar is such an intimate kind of quieter instrument. It really thrives as a solo, the acoustic guitar that Mak will play so beautifully. He's got a big, rich, beautiful sound that will play out beautifully in the Presbyterian Church. He does not amp up at all. He's completely acoustic. But he will play a solo, and I had to have Orion play a solo as well, because when he played the Barber Fugue for us a couple years ago, people just lost every bit of wit they had left in their heads. He left us all addled with how great he was.
So what on the program are you especially looking forward to, and you think we should be especially looking forward to?
Well, I'll say the duets that Orion and I will play, we're playing two of them. I'm looking forward to just the powerful study and contrast between those two, because the first duet that we'll play on the program is Dolly Suite by Gabriel Fauré. It's six miniatures, six little things written by the great French composer Fauré, and this is house music. This is music, he dedicated it to the birthdays and special celebrations of his love's daughter. And so when her daughter would have a new birthday, he would give her another movement of this. And he was an older man at this point, and it was his way of showing his affection for her. And it's really house music, but it's also, it reminds me a lot, and I'm going to talk about this with the audience, of The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The idea that the subject matter is ostensibly childhood and things of childhood, but it's so profound, and the philosophy is endlessly deep, and as a grown-up you can enjoy it forever. And there are actually photographs of, apparently Fauré loved to play the piece, Four Hands, with little kids because the top part was written so easily that a child can play it. And that's why I'm taking the upper part with
I was going
Orion.
to ask.
Yeah, I'll leave it to the audience to decide. Is it because uh, the upper part's easier and I can handle it, or is it because the old man used to sit on the lower part and youth sat on the upper part? So I wanted Orion to sit on the lower part and let me sit on the top part. I'll let the audience decide which of those parallelisms we're going for. But anyway, I was talking about contrast. Contrast that with An American in Paris, which is a huge symphonic tone poem, kind of an American slant on the great Richard Strauss tone poems, and all about this young jazz classical composer who's gotten to go to. He fell in love with Ravel's music and his harmonies, and he went to Paris, and he was so struck by all that, and he writes this huge tone poem, which has been really delightfully translated into a four-hands piece for piano, where we'll try to imitate the entire orchestra with that. So I really like the versatility of the piano that way.
Yeah, so how do you, when you're playing something that was originally written for orchestra or for a different instrument, how do you think about translating those colors and sounds into the piano?
It's it's a great question, Josh, and it's one of the funnest parts of being a pianist. It is a great imitator, and I'll never forget early lessons when I would be playing a Beethoven sonata, and a great coach would say, "What would a Beethoven string quartet sound like here? Can you play
Hmm.
like you're a string quartet?" And amazingly, you can. Or or what part of the orchestra might this be? I think this would be the bassoons and oboes. Can you do that for me? And amazingly, the piano can do that. Uh, in point of fact, in the Gershwin American in Paris, he actually brought back four actual taxi car horns from Paris, which were used in the premiere as part of the piece. And I I'm pretty confident every single member of the audience will be able to tell when the piano is imitating those car horns. You kind of can't miss it. So that all that imitation is really fun, and it was one of the funnest parts of my education, getting started at the piano. When it's one thing to tell students, practice with the metronome and make sure your 16th notes are all even and that you hold the tempo. But then when you talk about the imagination and how this means something, it means something beyond the scholarly and the dry academic things. It's just so liberating and exciting.
Yeah. One of the things I enjoy about hearing a piece that we know in one form, in this case, orchestral form, hearing it played by a different instrument is you hear different parts of the composition kind of come out maybe a little more clearly. And I think that
Yes.
might be something we can expect with some of the pieces that Mac is going to play as well, in particular, how he's going to open the program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
This is almost a place where I should flip the interview because Mark is going to play the chaconne from the D minor partita of Bach. Um, and I think everyone knows that solo violin playing never had it so good as when Bach first turned his sights on that. And the chaconne is the towering piece among all of them. But you are a violinist, and you and I have had the pleasure of reading Brahms together. And I would flip the question to you and ask you, just out of sheer envy, what's it like to play the chaconne?
Oh, it's incredible, and it's a huge challenge, right? A chaconne generally is a piece with a repeated bass line, and it's in many cases just a simple dance. And Bach takes this form and turns it into this monumental, 15 or 16-minute long
Yeah.
piece where he just has variation after variation building on this bass line. And there are lots of every great violinist has recorded the Bach chaconne, and you can listen to all of them and hear tremendous differences in interpretation.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to hearing it on guitar, and because I think there will be different parts of Bach's brilliance that'll come out, and I think the bass line will be especially clear and easy to hear, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that, especially in the First Presbyterian Church, which is such a great space for hearing music like that.
Yes, indeed. And I love Bach on the harpsichord. I know that's a really a strong dividing line. Some people love the harpsichord and some don't. For me, my heart just responds to the sound of Bach on the harpsichord. Weirdly, it sounds more expressive than a piano to me. It sounds even more emotional and more romantic. And I mentioned that because I think hearing the chaconne, which was written for the violin, played for us. We haven't really. I've failed to make this explicitly obvious to the audience right now, but it'll be played by guitar, by Mark Gergich on the guitar. So he's going to play a version of it. I actually can't tell you how much it translates directly, or how much he's had to make minor adjustments and modifications to the instrument. I honestly don't know, but I think that it will sound very much right to a lot of us.
Absolutely.
To a lot of us, even to a violinist, right? That because of the sound of great Bach on the harpsichord, and also because Bach, when we say that Bach's music is universal, it's not just a platitude. It's meant on a lot of different levels, and one of those is, you could roll your eyes and heave a heavy groan that you're stuck going to a saxophone quartet of Art of Fugue or something, but then you could listen to it and you say, well, darn it, if it isn't still great art. You could play Bach on tin cans, really.
Oh, I think Bach would have been very comfortable hearing the D minor partita, the chaconne, on a different instrument, right? He was a very free transcriber. There are tons of examples of him taking works by Vivaldi and arranging them for different instruments and taking his own work.
You're saying this and it makes me wonder, does our distance from things sometimes give us this insecurity where we're trying to grasp for what's the correct thing? What's the exact correct thing? What's the ossified one correct way that one could do this, because it's far enough away that we can't ask him, and we do revere the work and the artist, and so we want to please the ideal of that artist in our mind. But as you say, I mean, he was certainly very happy to take themes of music and bring them all over to different instrumentations. Yeah,
totally. So Andy, you mentioned that the duets you're playing with Orion are for one piano, four hands.
Yeah.
Is there a difference that you see as a pianist between works for one piano, four hands, and for two pianos?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I tend to prefer four hands. Something about it, it's like playing tennis with a net, as my old Shakespeare professor used to say. He didn't like free verse. He said free verse is like playing tennis without a net. And I feel like four hands, you're still playing an instrument, and somehow...
Wasn't that Robert Frost?
Oh, was he quoting Robert Frost? Did he say that?
It was Robert Frost.
That free verse is playing tennis without...
Yeah.
Probably, I was a bad student. My teacher was quoting Robert Frost. I'm sure you're right. But I do feel that something about four hands... I will say, it's tricky. And even when I'm practicing home alone, I have to practice like this because it's very tempting to just practice like this, and then when you join your friend to rehearse, discover that all of the fingerings you thought worked no longer work at this zany angle, and then there's just, when a violinist and a pianist have a different approach to something, a lot of that is kind of camouflaged by the different instruments, right? But
yeah,
we have one set of pedals down there. The person on the bass is in command of the pedals, and I am probably, it's safe to say, I'm addicted to the soft pedal. I just love the mystery, that veiled, hushed, gooey mystery of the soft pedal. I use it way too much, and I remember playing with someone who was on the other extreme, where he felt he could play an entire recital and just never use. He didn't like it. He felt that what I felt was mystery. He just felt it took away the purity of the sound. It made it more dirty. It made it, And man, I was on the bass, and he kept reminding me, Andy, please, no soft pedal. Eddie, Paddle, you're forgetting. And so these things really do come up a lot in putting together a piece like this. I almost wondered if we should get some video camera over our heads and a monitor taking the live feed, because I think it's also a fun spectator sport for the audience to try to figure out how are they not
Crashing into each other.
yeah, or how are they not breaking into fisticuffs here.
Is there anything else you think we should talk about?
I should also just briefly mention that Mock will also be playing another short set of solos by, and this is interesting, Tadic, the guitarist. I've seen him referenced as a Bosnian and as a Serbian guitarist, and I'm unable to wrap my head around whether those can both be true at the same time. I've heard someone say, yes, he's both. And I suppose with the boilings over there in recent decades, it's all very possible. But I don't think we've ever had music of that particular part of the world before on the series. So I'm very tickled about that. And these are kind of spicy pieces with some 11/8 and fun rhythms and fun harmonies. It's going to be a really nice departure, I think, from everything else that we've got on the program.
So we've got some Fauré, we've got some Tadic, we've got some Bach. There's going to be a lot of variety in this concert.
Yes, yeah, indeed, and hopefully the audience will kind of gather around and be a close part of the performance. I never tire of saying, all of our concerts are as great as our audience and our gathering, and we have such a beautiful audience in New Canaan, great listeners who know music already, and newcomers who respond to it openly, who didn't know what to expect, and so it's always fun to see how they're going to respond to different programs.
Great. Well, Andy, thanks for hopping on and giving a little preview of the concerts on February 6th and 7th. And I hope we both see a whole bunch of new faces there.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks, Josh.
All right.
It was fun
Thank you.
talking.